All right. Of the websites we were doing, there's one sort of glaring thing that is not really practical and that you wouldn't really do on a live site, and that is anyone who gets to that site could maintain the data. Now, if this was something like, behind a company's firewall that they could only use internally and populated the public site, if this was like a private intranet site, that might be okay. Or anyone that was a user, but even then, you want some kind of authentication. Scratch that. You would virtually never do anything like that of allowing people to maintain the data, add, delete, change data without having some kind of authentication. So that's what we're going to study today. And again, the authentication portion of the system kind of falls in the authentication and data entry part of the application could fall into what's called content management. Like if we had a website, that if we were a video store back in 2000 and we got in videos, we might enter them into part of the website that wasn't public, and then they would be used to populate the public website. Both would use the same database. And one part of the application that was private would allow the maintenance of it and so on. But we're going to start small, and we're going to do the simplest form of authentication in today's class. And I'm just going to redo the movie example with authentication. So let me find Visual Studio. Hopefully I'll have a better week than I did 2 weeks ago when I really downloaded a error-riddled application and never quite got unhinged. So hopefully today will go better. I'm going to create this from scratch. So I'm going to go up under File, New, Project, and we get to select from there. We want ASP.NET Core Web App with Razor Pages. Click Next. I'm going to type in Razor Pages. These. And I'm going to store it somewhere on the desktop. Solution in the same directory, sure thing, it will create it there. I like that. Next. As I said, pick 8.0. You should have that version installed. If you don't, update it. Don't absolutely under no circumstances go lower than 6.0 because then I won't be able to grade your work. All right, under authentication type, we have individual accounts, Microsoft Identity Platform, and Windows. Windows would be if you were authenticating based on your Windows login. Microsoft Identity Platform, I am not sure exactly what that does. I'm going to say individual accounts. Verify that that's correct. Because I remember the options being different before, and I don't want to screw Yeah, individual user accounts. Okay. And then we'll say create. And we're off to the races. Now, what complicates things when you use the individual accounts, what complicates things is that you're now going to have two database contexts. Now you can put everything in one database context, but I'd prefer that you keep things in separate database contexts. Well, why that's a problem? It's a problem because in anything that you do to the database, you have to specify what context that you want. So if we look under, look at our app settings, we already have one connection. And we already have application DB context. I think actually that's what I wanted to show, not the connection. So we already have one database context. So I'm going to go in and do the movie tutorial, which should be pretty straightforward. But just in case anyone has questions or had trouble with this, let me know. I'm going to go in and create a models folder. I do apologize. My retina has healed, but my cataracts were aggravated by the surgery, so I can't see really well. So somewhere there should be new folder. Pardon me?
You go to add. Down.
Down. Okay, there we go. Oh, there, thank you, new folder. All right. And I'm going to create models in here. So I'm going to add in there, new razor component. Wait a minute, that's not what I wanted. New item, there we go. And we'll use the singular movie.cs. I'll click add. All right, now I'm going to go to our web app from before. Add a model, there we go. Copy the model down here. All right, and there's our model. We talked last time about we talked last time or a couple times ago about data annotations. And we could put those in if we want to indicate things are required and so on. So now I'm going to create, so I created that, save it. Going to go in pages, add folder. And I'm going to use the plural this time, so movies. add a new scaffolded item. What do we want? We want Razor pages using Entity Framework, CRUD, C-R-U-D. What model? Movie. What DB context? I'm going to take that. Notice this is different than the one that we created before, and we'll view this to see the two contexts. Because this is typically what gives students trouble, is they'll run into problems because they have two contexts. And again, one solution will be to put it in the application DB context, but I would prefer this way of creating separate contexts. So I hit add. And it does its thing. While it's doing its thing, I can tell you the rest of my medical woes. I'm having a heart cath tomorrow. Hope that comes out good. And sometime in November, I'm having my cataracts taken care of. So it's going to be a busy semester. I will post on Canvas if any of these require me to miss a class. Right now, the plan is that they won't, but you never know. Oh, and I need my hip replaced, but that won't happen until next year. And if they put a stent in me, that won't happen for another 6 months, which those of you that are on campus have seen me walking with a cane because it is starting to hurt a lot. I know this is probably too much information, but I don't want dead air. You know, I used to be on radio, and dead air is the enemy. So I'm just thinking of something to talk about during this. Anyhow, it does its thing, and we should be all set. Now we want to go to the stage, as soon as this finishes in a second here, we want to go to the stage where it is going to, we're going to actually update the database. Now remember, we have two contexts. That means two databases to update. So, for tools, we go to NuGet Package Manager, Package Management Console. And in here, I'm going to say, I'm going to make a mistake first. That way you know. That way I'm telling you so you know that this is a mistake and I didn't just, you know, screw up unintentionally. If I go in and say, add migration, initial migration, I'm going to get an error. And the reason I get an error is because we have more than one DB context. And we can see them over here. Under data, we have a Razor page movies context. That will be where the movie table, and if we did it, the actors table, and so on. And then we have the database, application database context, which is used for the user data, the user data to log on. Again, when I scaffolded this, I could have put application DB context in there and have everything in the same database. There's pros and cons of doing it either way. I would prefer you, for testing and other purposes, to create the separate context. So I have to go in and add the context to my add migration statement. So add migration dash context Razor pages, please, context. I screwed up again, but it's forgiving me. I forgot to put the name of the context on the end. Right. Let's redo this. the right way. Add migration dash context, Razor Pages, movies context. Now I have to put in the name of the migration. And it's going to do its thing, and it created the migration. All right. Now I want to update the database. So I want to update both databases. And for both databases, I need to update database. And I have to specify the context. And I'm going to say Razor Pages, movies, context. There. There it goes. And remember, what does this do? This syncs up the database. But since we've never had a database in this case, this actually creates and syncs up the database with the model. So now we should have a database, Razor Pages movies, that contains the movie table. I have to do the same thing for application DB context. Key takeaway for this, when you create a migration or update the database, you need to specify the context. So you have your command dash context and the name of the context. If you're adding a migration after the context, you put the name of the migration. So now we're all set. Run into that silly security error because of the way these are set up. So we're going to run on Edge instead. It's easier to remember to run it on Edge than to try to remember, try to get people to change the defaults. Now, I didn't add that to template. Let's go back and do that. Notice in the shared, there's a new file, login partial. /movies. It's the name of the folder we created. That will, by default, bring up the index CSHTML. And here we go. Yeah, I lied. You have to specify slash index. Okay. All right, and we can create a new. Oh, wait a minute. I thought we have login. Well, we do have login. We just haven't specified what you need to be logged in for. All right. So all we've done is the ability to log in. So I can register a new person.
Question.
Yeah.
Purpose of the email, does it actually have to be an email? Or you can just type in a bunch of random numbers if you are just trying to test it.
Yeah. It has to look like an email though. So you couldn't do Fred as your email. You'd have to do fred@fred.com. All right, let's try again. P A $$, WORD 1. B A $$, WORD. Right, there we go. All right. Now, normally when you log in like this, when you give an email address to register an account, normally because of just exactly what you said, the fact that you could fake an email, all right, normally you'd get a confirmation email and you'd have to click a link to activate your account. That's how it is in just about every service that has it. We don't have an email server set up on this test machine. So what we do is we have this link here that pretends that they sent the email and you've confirmed it. So before you can log in with this account, you have to click here to confirm your account. And it confirms the email. Now we can log in. And it even remembers us. So we logged in and it knows who we are and all that. What we need to do now is we need to put it so that you have to be logged in to access certain pages. So let's go on. First page. Let's see what we have to do. We have to use this authorized declaration right before the public class. So I'm going to go and I'm going to authorize just one of the pages. Go and say I'm going to authorize the create page. I'm going to go in the model. And right here, I'm going to specify authorize. So now to go and create a movie, you have to be logged on. All right. Okay, so I can go to movies. That allows me to see them. All right, which is cool. So log out first. Go to movies. Allows us to see them, which makes sense. Anyone should be able to read the database. If I go to add it though, it forces me to log in. So you don't need any special code other than just saying authorize at the beginning of that, right before the class. Remember me will create a cookie, so it will remember you the next time that you go in. Plus, each browser has its own scheme for remembering passwords as well. So you log in, and now I can go and enter in a movie. I kept putting in 1976 for Star Wars. I read the other day it came out in 77. All right, now, all right, we're good And if we go to add, it will allow us to do it because we're logged in. However, we only did it to add. So we can go in and edit and delete. Neither of those are good. So what I would say is anything that allows updating the database. So it would be add, edit, and delete. The details, yeah, that's okay. Someone should be able to see the details about an item. Typically, you'd be allowed to do that, even if you aren't logged in. And the listing, you should be allowed to do. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to change those other two. Change those other two. So now we won't be able to do any of the database updating things, add, edit, or delete if we're not logged in. But the list and the details we're allowed to do. This is important for your project. Now, to be sure, there are more complicated schemes to allow authentication. There's user roles and all kinds of things. We're at least studying this one. We're studying the most basic one. And your project should implement the most basic form of authentication. All right. So and any project from here on in should have the most basic form of authentication. All right. Now, the designer in me doesn't like how we did this, though. All right. Here's why I don't like why I did it. Why even give them a link to create new if they're just going to be denied? Or the link to edit. Maybe we would be able to put in code so that if they're not logged in, they don't even see these links. That would be cool. All right. So let's see how to do that. Let's ask ChatGPT. It doesn't allow me to force me to log on. It doesn't. Good. Okay. How can I hide a link in an SP.NET Razor page if the user is not logged in using individual all right. Okay. We can do something like this. All right, let's see if it's right. Gotta test it out, make sure it's right. Don't take its word for anything. I've used ChatGPT and I trusted what it said and it was incorrect. I spent hours, this was in a music programming language. I spent hours looking at it saying like, I'm not getting it. It's not working. I'm doing what ChatGPT said. And then I found out ChatGPT was wrong about something. So, all right. So let's go on the list which is the index. And it's doing something incorrect. How is it? Let's go back here and see what they said. I close the chat GPT. Oh. I do it in Chrome. Must have closed that window. Oh, I think I forgot a snippet of code.
So it looks like there's like a line or something randomly in there.
That's the separator.
Just point it out because it doesn't look happy with it.
That's weird. Good eye. Okay. And then I can do it for the create code too. Okay, now when we get this, if you're not logged on, you won't even see those links.
Still 3 RSS. It was down by the edit.
Like that. Whole line.
right side, top right, like of the like code thing.
We're gonna just get rid of these. These look like a problem. Okay, so now when we run this, we go and we're not logged in. Movies. Yeah, details. We don't see the ad and all that, but I did something wrong on that second one. I think I needed the at sign.
Doesn't like those.
Yeah, it does not like the vertical lines. Now we go here. We can view the details, but we can't add, we can't until we log on. Now we can view those. Now, here's a question. Do I still need to put in the authenticate even if I do that? Even if I hide the links, do I still need to put authenticate? And the answer is yes, because someone could type in the full URL like this. And if we didn't have the authenticate in it, it's not add, it's create. We'd be able to get to it. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go and I'm going to temporarily remove from the create the authenticate or authorize. So I'm not logged on. I go here. I don't see the link, but if I typed it /create, let me get right into it. So even if you have means of hiding a link, I guess is what I'm saying, you should still put the authorize in the page to limit access to it, to that. All right, it's just better, better practice because, you want this to be foolproof. You don't want someone taking a chance. Well, gee, I remember from CISS243 that /create took me to the ad program. Let me try typing that in. So just in case someone got the URL or guessed the URL or overlooked someone's shoulders or whatever, you want that, you want the authorization to occur on the page as well. All right, now, again, if we make any changes to the movie model, let's go in and let's add an optional string for director. And this is what got me in trouble the week before last. I add for director. All right. I would need to update the Razor Pages movies context, and I need to create a migration. So I would say add migration context. Then I'm going to add my migration. And I'm going to update the database. You use the up arrow, that takes you to the last command. I can save you a little bit of typing. And now the database is back in sync with the model. And I could go into the index, all the other pages and add that field, which essentially just copied the field before it. I won't go and do that, but like, for example, here, I want to add the director. I just copy this block of code, change it to say movie-director, movie-director, validation for movie-director, and just copy that. And each page is like that, where you just have to make a copy and change the relevant things to reflect the relevant fields. Are there any questions about this? All right, that's all I had for this week. We will either see you next week or at lab.